It had been a long week. My name is Rachel Carter, and I had flown into Chicago for a weekend business conference, one I wasn't particularly excited about. The hotel was charming, if not slightly outdated. It had this old Hollywood charm, complete with velvet curtains and brass door-orc knobs. I checked in late Friday night, and all I could think about was curling up in my room, ordering room service, and maybe catching up on emails if I had the energy. My room was 502. I repeated that number to myself as I dragged my suitcase down the dim hallway, my heels clicking against the vintage-patterned carpet. The elevator had been slow, and my feet ached from a long day of networking, handshakes, and forced smiles. I just wanted to crash. I finally reached what I thought was my room, swiped my key card, and heard the satisfying click of the door unlocking. Without thinking, I pushed it open. That's when everything went sideways. Inside, the lights were on. Soft jazz music floated through the air, coming from a Bluetooth speaker on the dresser. Candles flickered on the nightstand, casting a warm glow across the room. I stopped dead in my tracks. In front of me stood a man in nothing but a towel, his hair still damp as if he'd just stepped out of the shower. Beside him, sitting on the edge of the bed, was a woman wrapped in a silky robe, a wine glass in her hand. Both of them turned to look at me, faces frozen in a mix of confusion and alarm. I gasped, stumbling backward. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I slammed the door shut before they could say anything. My heart was pounding. I stood outside the room for a moment, mortified, before glancing at the number on the door. 504, not 502. I was 2 rooms off. I hurried down the hall and found my actual room, heart still racing. Once safely inside, I leaned against the door and let out a long breath. I'd never been more embarrassed in my life. My mind kept replaying the moment. How their faces looked, the jazz, the candles. It was like I had walked into the opening scene of a romantic movie, only I wasn't supposed to be in it. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak in the hallway made me jump. I kept worrying they might complain to the front desk, or worse, what if I ran into them at the conference? Morning came, and I tried to shake it off. I dressed in my usual business casual attire, tossed my hair into a neat ponytail, and headed to the ballroom for the breakfast session. It was a sea of name tags and lukewarm coffee, but I was used to it by now. I was pouring myself a cup when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned and nearly dropped the coffee pot. It was him, the man from room 504. He was dressed now, of course. Navy blazer, fitted slacks, a lanyard with his name tag hanging from his neck. "Hey," he said, his voice easy and warm. "We sort of met last night." I felt my face go red. "I am so sorry. I thought it was my room. I wasn't paying attention." He laughed, holding up a hand. "It's okay. No harm done. I'm David, by the way. David Parker." "Rachel," I said, still flustered. "Rachel Carter." "Nice to meet you, Rachel Carter," he said with a smile. "Officially this time." He poured himself a coffee, too, then leaned against the counter. "I won't lie, you scared the hell out of me, but it was a funny surprise." I laughed nervously. "I promise I'm not in the habit of barging into strangers' rooms." "Well," he said with a playful grin, "you do have a dramatic entrance." We talked for a few more minutes about the conference, our work, where we were from. He was a software consultant from Austin. I was in marketing based out of Boston. It turned out we were attending some of the same sessions, and somehow the awkwardness faded quicker than I expected. Later that afternoon, during one of the breakout sessions, I saw him again. He waved and offered the seat next to him. I hesitated just a second, then took it. It felt natural. That evening, after a long day of seminars and speeches, I returned to my room and found a small envelope slipped under my door. Dinner, lobby at 7, David. I stared at the note for a full minute. My first instinct was to decline. I didn't mix business with personal. But then I thought about how easy it had been to talk to him, how kind his eyes were, how he didn't make me feel stupid for my mistake, so I said yes. Dinner was at a cozy Italian place 2 blocks from the hotel. We ordered wine, laughed over our initial meeting, and talked for hours. I learned that David had a teenage daughter, shared custody with his ex, and had been out of the dating scene for a while. I told him about my dog, my love for old movies, and how I hated business travel. By dessert, the tension was gone completely. We walked back to the hotel slowly, the city lights twinkling around us. When we reached the elevator, there was a pause. Neither of us moved. I had a great time, I said softly. Me too, he replied. And that was it. No pressure, no awkward goodbye kiss, just 2 people who had stumbled into something unexpected and maybe something real. The rest of the weekend flew by. We shared lunches, sat together during panels, and even skipped one session to walk by the river. People probably assumed we came to the conference together. By Sunday afternoon, as we packed up and checked out, it felt like we were saying goodbye to something that had just begun. I'm really glad I opened the wrong door, I joked as we stood outside the hotel. David smiled. Me too. It might have been the right door after all. We exchanged numbers and a promise to stay in touch. He flew back to Texas. I headed home to Boston. For a while, we texted and called, shared photos of our daily lives, made each other laugh. Then came a weekend trip, just the 2 of us, meeting in New York. That weekend confirmed what we'd both suspected. This wasn't just a conference fling. It had started as a mistake, me opening the wrong door.